guys, it's me. It's Miss Cheka. I don't know if anybody is coming today because I know I messed up the schedule, or the schedule is just weird. But I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna make this video, and then on Tuesday I have my first day of classes, and I'm super nervous but excited about it. I'm been a real crazy week. Let's go ahead and do Nerd Hangout on Monday. All right, that'll be our last Nerd Hangout at 1 o'clock. And I think that we should make it a garden one. And then starting on Tuesday, we'll have a different schedule. I'll be good. Hi, Tess. I see you there. Hello. All right, so we've got our book, Esperanza Rising. And let's just dive in. The platform was lit up with big lights. Men from the camp in starched and pressed shirts and cowboy hats sat in chairs tuning their guitars and violins. Long rows of tables were covered in bright tablecloths where women sold tamales, delicious, desserts, and the specialty agua de Jamaica, hibiscus flower water punch made with the red Mexican Jamaica bloom. This is what we were talking about last time. Agua de Jamaica, super red, really delicious. And that Jamaica bloom, it's hibiscus. There was bingo on the wooden tables and a long line of chairs circling the dance area for those who wanted to watch. That's where Mama and Hortensia sat, talking to other women. Esperanza stayed close to them, watching the growing crowd. Where do all the people come from? She asked. The other night, she heard Juan say that about 200 people lived in their camp, but there were many more than that now. These fiestas are popular. People come from other camps, said Josefina, and from Bakersfield, too. When the music started, everyone crowded around the platform, clapping and singing. People started dancing in the area around the stage. Children ran everywhere, chasing and hiding. Men held young boys on their shoulders, and women swaddled their infants, all of them swaying to the sound of the small band. After a while, Esperanza left Mama and the others and wandered through the noisy crowd, thinking how strange it was that she could be in the middle of so many people and still feel so alone. She saw a group of girls who seemed to be about her age, but they were huddled together. More than anything, she wished Marisol were here. Isabel found her and pulled on her hand. Esperanza, come see. Esperanza let herself be led through the crowd. Someone from town had brought a litter of kittens. A group of girls were crowded next to the cardboard box, cooing and cradling them. It was clear that Isabel desperately wanted one. Esperanza whispered to her, I will go ask your mother. She wove back through the crowd to find Josefina, and when she agreed, Esperanza practically ran back to the spot to tell Isabel. But when she got there, a bigger crowd had gathered and something else was going on. Marta and some of her friends stood on the bed of a truck that was parked nearby, each of them holding up one of the tiny kittens. This is what we are, she yelled, small, meek animals, and that is how they treat us because we don't speak up. If we don't ask for what is rightfully ours, we will never get it. Is this how we want to live? She held the kitten by the back of the neck, waving it high in the air. It hung limp in the front of the crowd. With no decent home and at the mercy of those bigger than us, richer than us? Isabel trembled, her eyes in a panic. Will she drop it? A man called out, well, maybe all that cat wants to do is feed his family. Maybe it doesn't care what the other cats are doing. Señor, does it not bother you that some of your compadres live better than others? Yelled one of Martha's friends. We are going to strike for 2 weeks at the peak of cotton for higher wages and for better housing. We don't pick cotton on this farm, yelled another man from their camp. What does it matter, yelled Martha, if we all stop working, if all the Mexicans are juntos, together? She made a fist and held it in the air. Then maybe it will help us all. He yelled back, that is a chance we cannot take. We just want to work. That's why we came here. Get out of our camp. A cheer rose up around him. People started shoving, and Esperanza grabbed Isabel's hand and pulled her aside. A young man jumped into the truck and started the engine. Marta and the others tossed the kittens into the field. Then they pulled some of their supporters into the back of the truck with them and raised their arms, chanting, "Huelga, huelga, strike, strike." "Why is she so angry?" asked Esperanza as she walked back to the cabin a few hours later with Josefina, Isabel, and the babies, leaving the others to stay later. Isabel carried the soft, mewing orange kitten in her arms. "She and her father move around to find work, sometimes all over the state," said Josefina. "They work wherever there is something to be harvested. Those camps, the migrant camps, are the worst." "Like when we were in El Centro," said Isabel. "Worse," said Josefina. "Our camp is a company camp, and the people who work here don't leave. Some live here for many years. That is why we came to this country, to work, to take care of our families, to become citizens. We are lucky because our camp is better than most. There are many of us who don't want to get involved in the strike because we can't afford to lose our jobs, and we are accustomed to how things are in our little community." "They want to strike for better houses?" asked Esperanza. "That and more money for those who pick cotton," said Josefina. "They only get 7 cents a pound for picking cotton. They want 10 cents a pound. It seems like such a small price to pay, but in the past, the grower said no. And now people are coming to the valley to look for work, especially for places like Oklahoma, where there is little work, little rain, little hope. If the Mexicans strike, the big farms will simply hire others. Then what would we do?" Esperanza wondered what would happen if Mama did not have a job. Would they have to go back to Mexico? Josefina put the babies to bed. Then she kissed Isabel and Esperanza on their foreheads and sent them next door. Isabel and Esperanza lay in their beds listening to the music and the bursts of laughter in the background. The kittens, after drinking a bowl of milk, curled up in Isabel's arms. Esperanza tried to imagine the conditions that were more shabby than this room that was covered in newspaper to keep out the wind. Could things possibly be worse? So I'm going to pause for a little second there, and we're going to talk about some history, because I like history. And this is a history that we don't often learn about a lot in school. I learned about it as an adult because I like to study English literature, which you guys know. I love my English literature, and I love Shakespeare, and I like Jane Austen, and there's all kinds of writers that I like. Well, one thing that I learned about from reading my English literature books is about the Industrial Revolution. So for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, if you wanted something like clothes, you had to make it at home, right? So like this shirt that I'm wearing, it's made out of cotton. So the steps that you would have to go to if you lived in like ancient Egypt, or you lived in ancient Mexico, or you lived in like Germany in like the 500s is you can't just go to, H&M and pick out a t-shirt like this, right? So you would have to grow the plant. So in Mexico, it would be like cotton. In Europe, it would probably be more like linen, or you would raise sheep. And then from the sheep, you would get wool, right? And then all of the steps from having the plant like linen or from cotton or the sheep to having a garment that you can put on, there's a whole ton of steps there, and they would all happen at home in somebody's house, right? So if you got the sheep, then somebody would, shear the sheep, take the wool, card it, spin it into yarn, and then make that into a garment. If it's cotton or it's linen, then you have to grow the plant, harvest the plant, do the thing, and then the very last step is that somebody would take the cloth, which has to be woven, and then cut it into pieces and sew it and put it together. And now I've got a t-shirt, and today I'm wearing jeans actually. What the Industrial Revolution is that instead of having all of those steps happen at home, somebody's house, usually like women do a lot of that, like the weaving, the spinning, cutting of the cloth, sewing, all of that stuff. And men would do a lot of the like growing part, or like taking care of sheep. Instead of all of that happening at home, factories are invented, and factories never ever existed before the 1800s. So factories are invented, and that means that instead of mostly working at home, a lot of people would leave their house to work, and they would go to work in a factory. But because factories had never existed before, there were no rules about it, like literally no rules. So in order to have these factories and people working at them, people would work 6 and 7 days a week, every single day. There was no rule that said, you know, for a job, you can only work 5 days a week. Weekends did not exist. No weekends. Every day was just a work day. And the only day or the time that people would have off would be Sunday. And for some people, they wouldn't even get the whole Sunday, just half a day. And then there were no rules saying you can only make people work 8 hours a day. If you wanted to say, my factory is going to be open all day, and if you want a job here, then you have to work 10 hours or 12 hours or 16 hours a day, you could. So there were people who were working till, you know, there was light out, they would be working. There were no rules that said you had to be a certain age in order to have a job. So you could have kids that were going to the factory to work who were as young as 5. You would have 5-year-olds in these factories, or textile factories. Textile means cloth. And they would be running errands and doing stuff. There were no rules that said that kids could go to school, much less had to go to school. So you could be 7 or 8 years old, working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. That's how it was. And that's pretty terrible conditions. So you would think like, oh, okay, well, they're having to work crazy hours, 6 days a week, no weekend. They're really young, so they must have been getting paid a lot. Great system. Nope. People were being paid very, very, very little, especially kids. I mean, kids would be paying nothing, like pennies. And that's it. The factory owners, why would they change their mind? Why would they do things in a different way? Because they were making the most money out of it. So if you pay people more, the factory owner makes less. If you don't, if your factory is closed on a weekend, you don't make as much money. So the factory owners didn't have incentives to do that. So in England, in the 1800s, people started figuring out, well, hold on a minute. They're never going to change their minds. So we have to do something ourselves to make them change their minds. And they started doing strikes. So what a strike is workers who want to make a statement, instead of one person saying, well, I think that this is an unfair policy and we should have a better policy. I'm not going to go to work today. Well, that's not going to work, because then your boss is just going to be like, okay, you're fired. Bye. A strike is that all of the workers, all of the employees say, well, if none of us go to work, then the factory can't work. There's nobody to run the machines. And if the machines don't go, then the owner of the factory is going to have to say, okay, let's negotiate. Let's negotiate and come to an agreement, and then I can open my factories and make money again. And that is exactly what they did. So throughout the 1800s, all of these new laws were made because of these strikes that happened. So these workers were like, strike, 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 strike. And so now in modern times, like in the times that we live in, the laws that we have come from those strikes. So now we have a law Not just in England, these laws are now commonly used in most parts of the world, right? So in the United States, we have a 40-hour work week. So you can't say like, okay, you have to work every single day. We work 5 days a week. Everybody gets 2 days off. And then we work 8 hours a day. You can't just hire somebody and say, I need you to work, 16 hours, 6 days a week, et cetera, et cetera. So we call those labor laws. Labor means work. And we also have child labor laws. It is illegal. You cannot hire a child to work. You can't say, all right, these second graders are so lazy. They're not even doing their homework. I'm going to pull them out of school and like make them work in a factory. Can't do that. So we have child labor laws. We have laws that say how many hours you can work in a day. And you can't be, ass pass out. We have laws that say that we get a weekend. And we even have laws about how much you pay people. So we have something that is called the minimum wage. So you can't hire somebody and say, I'm going to pay you $10 to work 1 billion days. We have a law that says minimum means the least. So the least amount that somebody could get paid and still be able to live, like still have enough money to pay rent, to have a place to live, and to pay for food, to have food to eat. We call that the minimum wage, the least amount. So if you're a boss and you want to hire somebody, you have to at least pay them this amount. It's not a lot of money, but it is like enough so that somebody could eat and live. So that's how we have those laws. What Esperanza is saying is that even though those laws are in place, are they applied everywhere? Because what we're seeing is in this book, these workers who work on these farms were not getting good working conditions, right? They're living in houses that don't have water, that don't have indoor plumbing or bathrooms. They're being paid. Did you see that? 7 cents for a whole thing of cotton? So that's why that conversation is happening. Martha is saying, if we banded together and we did this strike, we could get these policies changed, just like workers have been doing for hundreds of years, right? The strikes have been happening for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then the other people are saying like, well, we could, but if we did, we might lose the house that we live in. We might lose our jobs. And then what would happen? Would they have to go back to Mexico? Like, what alternative do they have? So these are big things, but you can understand where Martha is coming from, right? She thinks that people should have enough money so that they can eat, enough money so that not only can they live in a place, but that they can live in a place that minimally has, plumbing, water, bathroom, that sort of thing. And you can also understand these families living in this community, like, they don't want to risk, well, what if they had no place to live? What if they were homeless? What they had no jobs? So you can see kind of the two sides here. So there's your history, guys. I'm going to read just a little bit more. Sleepily, Isabel said, "Did you have parties in Mexico?" "Yes," whispered Esperanza, keeping her promise to tell Isabel about her old life. "Big parties. Once, my mama hosted a party for 100 people. The table was set with lace tablecloths, crystal and china, and silver candelabras. The servants cooked for a week." Esperanza continued, reliving the extravagant moments, but was relieved when she knew that Isabel was asleep. For some reason, after hearing about Marta and her family, she felt guilty talking about the richness of her life in Aguascalientes. Esperanza was still awake when Mama came to bed later. A stream of light from the other room allowed just enough brightness for her to watch Mama unbraid her hair and brush it out. "Did you like the party?" Mama whispered. I miss my friends, said Esperanza. I know it is hard. You know what I miss? I miss my dresses. Mama! Esperanza said, laughing that Mama would admit such a thing to her. Shh, said Mama. You will wake Isabel. I miss my dresses too, but we don't seem to need them here. That is true. Esperanza, do you know that I am so proud of you for all that you are learning? Esperanza snuggled close to her. Mama continued, tomorrow we are going to a church in Bakersfield. After church, we are going to una tienda called Cholitas. Josefina said that she sells every type of sweet roll and Mexican candies. They were quiet, listening to Isabel's breathing. In church, what will you pray for, Esperanza? Asked Mama. Esperanza smiled. She and Mama had done this many times before they went to sleep. I will light a candle for Papa's memory, she said. I will pray that Miguel will find a job at the railroad. I will ask Our Lady to help me take care of Lupe and Pepe while Isabel is at school. And I will pray for some white coconut candy with a red stripe on top. Mama laughed softly. But most of all, I will pray that Abuelita will get well and that she will be able to get her money from Tio Luis's bank and that she will come soon. Mama stroked Esperanza's hair. What will you pray for, Mama? I will pray for all the things you have said, Esperanza, and one more thing besides. What's that? Mama hugged her. I will pray for you, Esperanza, that you can be strong no matter what happens. Okay. All right, guys. Have a good weekend. I'm going to do Nerd Hangout on Monday, 1 o'clock, regular time. And I'll see you guys then. So be good. Eat your fruits and vegetables. Bye, guys.